Alright, so let's talk about RC-20 or Retro Color. If you don't know it, it's made by XLN Audio, and it's basically this plugin that adds a lot of vibe, a lot of analog warmth and character to pretty much any sound. It has a lot of different modes. You can check out what it does here. I don't want to talk too much about it because I want to show you some examples. And the cool thing about it is that you can get it with the Splice rent-to-own program, where you pay $5 a month for 20 months, and you can pay the remaining balance anytime you like. So it's super cheap to get, and it's just an awesome plugin. I'm gonna show you some examples now. So we have this track here. And just to show you the power of this plugin, here it is without RC-20. I'm using it on a lot of things, but just hear the difference. What the hell? Sounds boring. That sounds really boring. So let's see what's happening here. First, we have a little drum pattern, really simple, just a kick and a snare. And right here on the kick, I'm using RC-20 in a really subtle way. So it's just adding noise every time the kick hits. So what we do for that is just turn off all of these, leave on the noise only. I added a lot of noise, added a lot of follow, which basically just adds noise anytime you get a signal coming in. So anytime the kick hits, you're gonna get some noise. You can choose between different types of noise. There's vinyl, there's some tape, there's some tube noise, there's all sorts of cool stuff. I like the vinyl one for this. And then I just back down on the magnitude. That's just like a mix knob for this. So if it's at 100, I just brought it down. So it's nice and subtle. Adds a lot of vibe, adds a lot of character to it. Here's without. With. Nice. Next, we have some claps. Two different clap samples. They're very mono right now. So what I did, I added RC-20 again. Added some noise with the follow option so that every time they hit, we get some noise as well. I added the wobble here, which is my favorite feature in RC-20. So here it is without anything. Then with the wobble, we get some nice stereo action going on. It usually comes with the stereo off, but I just love using this stereo for pretty much anything that needs to get some stereo width. It's basically a wobble that changes the pitch around so that you get different signals on each side. Makes it nice and stereo. Super nice for giving stuff some stereo width. I added the noise again. We get some vinyl noise every time the claps hit. Some reverb. And it's actually a really nice reverb. You can control the decay here and the EQ on the reverb. Super simple. And you can also make it mono if you want, or stereo. I like it to be stereo. But it's a nice and crispy reverb. Sounds really nice. We have some distortion here. And it's a powerful distortion. It's really good. You can also control the EQ here. And it has different types of distortion as well. Some really cool stuff. I like the tube. Sounds nice. So here are the claps without RC-20. With. Totally different vibe. Love it. Next, we have this hi-hat loop here. Just just compressing it a little so that it's nice and even. But if we add RC-20 again, we get some cool movement going on. Again, I'm using some noise with the follow cranked up so that we get some noise every time the hi-hats hit. We got some wobble here, and I'm using it in mono because I want my hi-hat to be just in one place, in the middle or wherever I pan it. I don't want it to be like all over the place. Although you can also do that and it sounds really awesome. Just a different vibe. For this track, I just wanted it to be a little more focused in the middle, but either works really good. Some distortion, gotta love this distortion on hi-hats and percussions. Just makes them super crispy, super vintage. Here's without. Sounds very hi-fi. This gives it just a lot of grit. Takes out some of that very high end. Just makes it smoother. It's really nice. I added some reverb as well with a pretty short decay just to give it some ambience. Without, with. It's pretty nice. And the magnetic is pretty much just like some volume drops, emulating vinyl when the volume comes down in the vinyl, like the different dropouts. And you can just use that to taste as well. I mean, it's a pretty intuitive plugin. You don't have to do a lot to make it sound good. Makes it like move around, vary in volumes. I just want it to be nice and subtle so that we get a consistent hi-hat. So I'm gonna take the dropouts away. And that's already a pretty sick hi-hat. Here's without again. Sounds like very studio kind of sound, but then with RC-20, it's just a vibe, you know? So our drums all together. Really nice. And then we have this little percussion loop. Got some compression going on. And some kickstart to make it pump a little. But the main thing here is RC-20 again. Again, giving it a lot of vibe. I gave it a pretty good amount of wobble with the stereo option. And if you move around with this knob, if you give it more flutter, it's just gonna have some more kind of stuttery pitch effects that are super nice. So you can just blend it to taste, find what works for you. Give it some distortion as well. I gave it a bit of reverb. And the magnetic, just slightly there, without, with. It's just a vibe machine. And I'm not saying that you have to use RC-20 on every track like I did here. I'm just showing you how it can work on every track. Because a lot of people just use it on synths. It's really nice on synths. But I think it can go beyond synths. I think it's really nice on drums, percussions, guitars, bass, pretty much anything that you want to mess around with. So here are drums with the loop. Super vibey. Then we have this bass right here. So it's a pretty simple bass sound. I recorded it with my monologue synth. And here's what happens when we give it some RC-20. Without. With. It's nice and subtle because I brought the magnitude down, the mix knob. But I gave it some distortion, especially here in the low end, like low mids, low end and subs, just to give it some beef, because this distortion, I love it, it's super nice. And I gave it a little bit of wobble, just to make the pitch move around a little bit without being too aggressive. And then for our keys and our synths, it just works, it just works. Here's without. So, pretty boring electric piano sound. Here's with RC-20. Nasty. Beautiful. So this wobble is amazing on keys, synths, guitars, because when the pitch starts moving around like that, just makes it feel super old school, lo-fi, kind of degraded. It's just awesome. It's like a weird chorus effect kind of thing. Here's without the wobble. Very mono, very boring. With the wobble. I added the stereo option, just opens it up. If we crank it, it gets a little too messy. So just blend it to chaste. If we give it some flutter, it's like more wobbly. I like having a little less flutter for stuff that's tonal, so that it's not too aggressive of an effect, but it still has that vibe. And then just some distortion in the low mids and lows to beef it up without. Sounds very thin with. Saucy. We can even give it some reverb if we wanted. It's just awesome. Without. With. Freaking love it. Then we have this synth here. So a pretty simple Juno sound. I recorded it with my JU-06. It's like this little cool Juno thingy. So it's just an audio. I needed to give it some vibe, so RC-20 does the job again. Beautiful. Same kind of deal. Stereo wobble going on. Distortion to beef it up. Some reverb to give it some space. And it just works. Here's without. With. Beautiful. Beautiful. And finally, we have these little synth stabs. Again, very mono, very kind of boring, lacking some character, some attitude. So, RC-20 again. And I just want to say I'm not sponsored by Excellent Audio or anything. I just really fucking love this plugin and use it all the time. So I just wanted to show you how it can be used in different ways. I'm just giving it some stereo image, bit of wobble, some distortion to make it thicker again, some reverb, and it does the job. You don't need to use 3 or 4 plugins. It just does the job in one plugin. Beautiful. So here's the whole thing again. So yeah, that's my demo of RC-20. Just wanted to show you how I use it with different sounds, show you how we can add a lot of a vibe to pretty much anything. Yeah, and I just wanted to make this video because I see a lot of people not taking full advantage of it, just using it on synths or keys, but it works on anything. So go do your thing, enjoy it, get it on Splice. It's super cheap, and yeah, have a good time with it.